In Colombia, the indigenous minga and rural movements mobilized in support of Gustavo Petro's government proposal for peace and social justice. In Afghanistan, 60 people have died as a result of the snows and rains that have hit the country in the last 3 weeks. And the Secretary General of the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah, Sayed Hassan Nasrallah, delivered a speech for the beginning of Ramadan and stated that the genocide in Gaza should be a lesson for all the peoples of the world. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos and from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. In Colombia, the indigenous minga and rural movements mobilized in support of Petro's government proposal for peace and social justice in the country. The activities include the participation of farming communities that will discuss the proposals of social programs promoted by Petro and the needs regarding peace and human rights. Several caravans are heading to the department of Valle del Cauca to perform a ritual and greet the minga, which is the collective work done for the benefit of the community, and talk with the High Commissioner of Peace and the Ministries of Defense and Interior. These mobilizations are intended to support the proposals presented by the national government over the last few years, with a special focus on labor, pension and health reforms, which have been debated but have not yet reached a successful conclusion. We go now to Venezuela, where the first vice president of the United Socialist Party, Diosdado Cabello, highlighted his party's decision to support the candidacy of President Nicolás Maduro for the July 28th presidential elections.
Territory, organization, awareness of our militancy, disciplined meetings in order with minutes. Each assembly has a record of how many people attended, the decision that was taken, and there was a decision taken from the grassroots, unanimously, by consensus, to continue with the comrade Nicolás Maduro as candidate for the presidency of the Republic.
This, likewise, Diosdado Cabello denounced the hijacking and subsequent destruction of the Venezuelan TeleSUR plane by the Argentine government and the United States.
The Argentinian government stole, and when I say the Argentinian government, I have to say clearly that it's not only Milei. I have to say it. They first stole a plane from us, and then they gave it to the United States. Now they gave it to Milei's government, but the plane had been there for a long time in Argentina. Then when the plane was in the United States, they tore it to pieces. They vandalized it. They dismembered it. They chopped it up for a scrap, I imagine. Then the Venezuelan government made a sovereign decision. What is the sovereign decision made by the Venezuelan government? That no aircraft with Argentinian registration may pass through Venezuelan airspace.
In Argentina, President Javier Milei allowed the installation of U.S. military forces in the Parana-Paraguay river route, which is key for the country, framing a new episode of absolute alignment with the White House. The General Harbors Department of Argentina signed a memorandum of understanding that enables the arrival of U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in one of the largest freshwater reservoirs in the world. The Parana-Paraguay river route system is the main source of the country's exports, with more than 80% of the shipping in the country passing through its waters. The opposition denounced Milei's government, stating that the measure hinders national sovereignty, and they also asked the Chief of Cabinet, Nicolás Posse, to attend the Congress to explain the implications of this agreement. We go now to Haiti, where the situation of violence worsens after citizens demonstrated against the convening of a presidential council following the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry.
On Monday, Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry resigned in a context characterized by the control of criminal gangs in 80% of the country, which have communicated that they will not accept any decision taken abroad. For their part, Haitian parties and movements should complete the formalities for the installation of a provisional governing council. The announcement was made on Monday at a high-level meeting convened in Jamaica by the Caribbean community CARICOM, although the Haitian State Department has affirmed that the body will be ready on Thursday. All this had led activists to hold protests in rejection of the Presidential Council that will take power in the Caribbean nation and any type of international intervention, as they claim, that is Haiti who must solve its own problems. In this sense, the protests took place in front of the Canadian Embassy in Port-au-Prince, because Canada is one of the key countries in Haitian politics, along with France and the United States, which participated in the extraordinary meeting of the Caribbean community that established the 9-member council. Protests are taking place despite a ban of demonstrations and the imposition of a curfew throughout the Western Department, which will remain in place until April 7. For his part, the foreign intervention approved by the United Nations is a standstill, since Kenya, the country leading it, announced that it will postpone the mission until a new constitutional authority is established.
Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the south. In Afghanistan, 60 people died after snows and rains hit the country in the last 3 weeks. The Minister of Disaster Management of Afghanistan reported that since the beginning of the storms, there have been 60 deaths and 23 wounded and more than 170,000 heads of cattle affected. The disaster has also caused the destruction of more than 1,600 houses throughout the country. In this respect, the government declared that aid will be distributed to the people affected by the torrential rains in the middle of a contingency plan, mainly in the most affected areas, such as the province of Herat. We go now to other topics. The Secretary General of the Lebanese resistance movement, Hezbollah, Sayed Hassan Nasrallah, said on Thursday that the genocide in Gaza should be a lesson for all the peoples of the world. During his speech on the occasion of the beginning of the month of Ramadan, amid the ongoing attacks perpetrated by Israel in the Gaza Strip, Nasrallah highlighted that during the 6 months of operations in the region, Israel has failed to achieve any of its declared goals. In this context, he affirmed that the call by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to invade Rafah means they have already lost the war. According to the Lebanese leader, another one of the signs of defeat of Israel is the attempt to negotiate with the Palestinian movement Hamas. In this way, he also pointed out that the Israeli occupation army is tired and exhausted on all fronts, and the number of its dead is very large and much higher than announced.
Today, in the 6th month, Netanyahu stands up to say that if you don't go to Rafah, you will have lost the war. I tell him that even if you go to Rafah, you will have lost the war, because after 6 months of fighting, he could not provide a victory scenario and a victory picture of all the goals he announced. All the targets he announced did not achieve a single one.
On the other hand, Nasrallah condemned the complicity of the U.S. President Joe Biden with the genocide that Israel is committing against the Palestinian people by continuing to supply armaments and ammunition to the Israeli state.
Who thinks that Biden can stop the war in Gaza? Who? I don't believe in the world that Biden can stop the war in Gaza. Now, with a stroke of a pen, that stops the ammunition, missiles, and rockets for Israel. The war will stop. It will have no shells to bomb Gaza or Lebanon with the stroke of a pen. At the stroke of a pen, Biden can go to the Security Council to veto it. He does not veto or vote on an international decision that the whole world will confront Israel and force it to stop the war. This story of dropping food is a joke in the eyes of the world.
The Israeli siege against the civilian population continues in Palestine. In addition, the Israeli army has limited the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza, including important medical supplies that are essential for life. Our correspondent Noor Harasin with the news.
On day 159 of the Israeli war on the coastal enclave, the Israeli forces launched a series of strikes on northern Gaza, on Middle Gaza, and also here in Rafah in southern Gaza, where it's housing more than 1.5 million Palestinians after they were displaced from their homes in the north. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 88 Palestinians were killed in Gaza during the past 24 hours, and this brings up the death toll here in the coastal enclave since the 7th of October up to 31,272 Palestinians, and the number of those who are injured is now at 73,024 people. These catastrophic numbers continue to rise as the Palestinians have actually reached the point where they have lost faith in the governments and the leaders. At the same time, several countries are still carrying aerial food drops on the northern Gaza. Also, there is these ships that are on their way to the Gaza Strip loaded with humanitarian aid. However, Palestinians are not that optimistic. They are questioning if this is a new kind of plan or if this means that the Israeli offensive on the Gaza Strip will continue and for more months because actually there is the Rafah border, Gaza's main gate to the outside world. Why humanitarian aid is not being allowed through the Rafah border? In one of the incidents, the UN, Philip Razzini actually said that the Israeli side stopped one of the humanitarian aid trucks from entering the Gaza Strip because they find scissors in it in one of the medical boxes. And here is what is happening. Actually, Israel have this long list of items that are not allowed into the Gaza Strip, including some kinds of building materials, including balloons, some essentials like medicine and anesthesia. We're talking also about power plant supplies. So it is a very long list of items that are not allowed into the Gaza Strip. Noor Harasin, TeleSUR, Gaza.
Now we have a final show break coming up, but before, we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. On Thursday in Russia, residents of Mariupol go to the polling stations on the last day of early voting in this part of the Donetsk region. Precisely, Russian presidential elections are scheduled to be held from March 15 to 17th and will give the winner a 6-year term of office. It should be noted that the ballots include 4 candidates: Leonid Slutsky from the Liberal Democratic Party of Russia, Nikolai Kharatinov from the Russian Communist Party, Vladislav Danavkov from the New People, and incumbent Vladimir Putin, who is running as an independent. In this regard, the current president welcomed the fact that the vote will be held in 4 newly annexed territories. Precisely in Russia, President Vladimir Putin called the citizens to participate in the presidential elections. The polls will begin this Friday, March 15th, and will be held during 3 days.
Tomorrow, March 15, polling stations will open throughout our vast country. A 3-day voting period for the election of the Russian president will begin. It is being held for the 8th time in Russia, which demonstrates the integrity of one of the basic principles of a democratic state, regular elections. It results will have a direct impact on the development of the country in the years to come.
In this sense, the Russian leader called for national unity in the midst of difficult challenges the country is going through.
I am confident that you understand the difficult period our country is going through, the difficult challenges we are facing in almost every area, and to continue to respond to them with dignity and to overcome the difficulties successfully, we must remain united and have confidence in ourselves.
And finally, President Putin stressed that participating in the elections is an act of patriotism.
I will say it clearly. Participation in today's elections is an expression of patriotic feeling. This is perfectly understood by the inhabitants on Donbass and Novorossiya, who, in the most difficult conditions, voted in a referendum for unity with Russia, and they will also make their choice these days. Our soldiers at the front will also vote. They defend the motherland with courage and heroes, and by taking part of the elections, they set an example for all of us.
In Zimbabwe, national park authorities are giving bicycles to children in order to shorten the amount of time exposition to wild animals on their way to school. Dozens of school children in western Zimbabwe have been given bicycles thanks to a joint initiative between the Zimbabwean National Parks Authority, ZimParks, and the International Fund for Animal Welfare, which aims to reduce the time children are on foot during their journeys to and from school, and so reduce the risk of them being attacked by wild animals such as elephants. Wild animals killed 50 people and injured 85 more in Zimbabwe last year, and elephants are among the most dangerous. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.